Thanks so much for joining us today. Today is the 10th of October, which is World Mental Health Day. And we decided that we would have a little chat with some awesome people from across digital science about what World Mental Health Day means, what it's for, and how it's all about raising awareness of mental health challenges and driving for that positive change for everybody's good health and well-being. I'm Suze, I'm Director of Researcher and Community Engagement here at Digital Science, and I'm a former academic. I was a nanochemist back in the day. I'm joined by John. John, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm John Hammersley. I'm one of the founders of Overleaf, a collaborative writing platform. I now do community stuff with with Suze at Digital Science as well. And I am also a former academic, did maths and physics, and worked in industry a bit before starting Overleaf.
Thank you so much. And we're also joined by Danielle Feger. Danielle, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I'm Danielle. I'm the Global Health Manager, Wellbeing Manager at Digital Science. And in my former life, I was also in academia. I worked in research strategy for more than 20 years.
It's amazing that I was having a conversation just earlier today about alternative academic careers, and I think it's really interesting that the three of us have all started in very similar roles, have maybe had some very similar experiences, but have all chosen to sort of take our skills and experience and use them in a range of different ways. And I wonder whether that sort of leads into how we manage our own mental health as well. So first of all, Danielle, I wonder whether I can ask you, why do we need a World Mental Health Day? Why is it so important that we have this?
I think it's mainly about raising awareness, also raising acceptance, normalizing it more or less. According to the WHO, at least 1 in 8 people suffers from some mental health issue at least once in their lives. And this could be anything. It could be depression, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety. There is so many to choose from. And it is also about, as we said, normalizing it. When we talk about physical health, we have no problems talking about that. We have a kind of distance to it and we can describe it. And also, we don't expect judgment, because if I tell you I have a physical injury or physical illness, you wouldn't turn around and say, well, just pull yourself together, just think positively, get yourself out of there. We can accept that, and we have to learn that with mental health issues. And of course, the two are very closely related. For example, take stress. Stress is a mental health issue, but that turns into a physical health issue very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really interesting. We do a lot of work around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and there are these 17 goals that are a roadmap for a global sustainable future for all. But one of those goals is good health and well-being. And so if it's deemed important enough to be a factor in our sustainable future, it should absolutely be something that we put more focus on. So within your role at Digital Science, and I know that I've taken part in some of the courses that you run and the regular sessions that you hold as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you're doing as Wellbeing Manager? Because you've mentioned body and mind, and I find your approach really interesting. Can you share that with people?
Yes, of course. I mean, first of all, to say I really like the approach DS has to well-being for the workforce. They want to create a positive workforce that can really use their abilities. And what we try to do is weave the whole health and well-being into the culture of the organization. So it's not just some ad hoc well-being activities here and there. It is really, there's a weave throughout the culture, and we have a well-being strategy that is really holistic and encompasses everything. So we have in the program, as you mentioned, we have the resilience and mindfulness courses. We have live mindfulness and yoga sessions. We have an ergonomics education and exercises program. And then we have specific workshops on things like procrastination, setting boundaries, imposter syndrome, anxiety, as they come up. And in addition to that, people have the opportunity for one-to-one meetings with me if any specific needs arise. And as you said, on one hand, the holistic program. On the other hand, the holistic approach of always combining mind and body. So my personal motto is creating space in body and mind. So we are looking at where is the space restricted, and there's always a combination of the two. And how can I help people to look at those restrictions and to opening up the space again? And that can be mental health as well as physical health.
Yeah, definitely. As somebody, again, who's attended some of your courses, there are certain things that I've really held on to, that the slightly overwhelming feeling when you're spinning loads of different plates and you just don't know where to focus. You have all that almost nervous energy. Your shaking meditation is something that always sticks with me, where you just kind of spend a minute or two just working through your body. And it's almost, for me at least, it feels like converting that quite antsy energy into suddenly a warmer, more sparkly, more productive energy. And I think that's really interesting. And your procrastination workshop as well was absolutely amazing. So I do think it is really interesting. And I think the point that you make about having a happy, healthy workforce is beneficial, not just for our internal community, but our external community as well, because I guess it means that we can best serve them in being the most creative and the most collaborative that we're able to be, to create the best solutions and the best tools. And so nobody knows this better than you, John, obviously having been a founder. It's not just the aspect of managing a whole new journey and the stresses and strains of doing that, but also as a company grows like Overleaf, it's not just the people that are working under you, but it's your user community as well that you're interacting with, and you're almost getting a temperature check on. Can you tell us a little bit about how that is for you and how you have found that?
Yeah, I think founding a company and starting a business is often sort of thought of as a particularly stressful thing to do. It is also very exciting though, and I think it's interesting that often you kind of use the excitement and the enthusiasm to sort of help you push through. Like people and the community has always been a big part of sort of my role at Overleaf. We've grown a lot since John and I founded it 10 years ago. We have an amazing team, and I actually really noticed my role become a lot harder during the pandemic, when we kind of had this sort of enforced, separation from a lot of people, because Overleaf's always been remote. Like, we've always been a remote team, and that was great. And in many ways, the pandemic came around, we could carry on doing everything, but we lost the opportunities to meet up at all. And so we'd used to meet up 2 or 3 times a year. We'd have other smaller meetings at conferences or in the office, and we'd also have those events where we'd see the community. And for me personally, I think all of those interactions were really helpful for, like you say, just getting a sense of how is everyone doing? Are we doing okay as a team? Is there anything concerning? And so suddenly to be cut off from all of that and cut off from other interactions as well, I found suddenly I was struggling to how do I even do my job properly now? Because you can't have one-to-ones with everyone. And when you talk over Zoom, you don't have quite the same ability to sort of see how someone's doing as you do in person. So that was really hard. So I found it a really hard, few years, to do that role. It's interesting you mentioned, Danielle, how it's linked to physical health as well, because I think during the pandemic, I also found that I was being less active, sat in the same room all the time. And actually, one of the things I did was take up running to try and just get out and get and do something. And actually, I recently did the Great North Run for the first time, and as part of that, raised money for Mind, the mental health charity, because it was in large part, this need to sort of help with my mental health that made me sort of like take up running again. And I think you make a good point that it's not as talked about. We kind of all say we're fine. How are you doing? If physically you feel all right, you say you're fine, even if you're very sort of stressed. And so, it made me appreciate the importance of, the sort of in-person interactions as well as the remoteness, as well as being a good remote team and the benefits that brings in terms of the breadth of people you can hire and the sort of, breadth of skills and things. But yeah, just having that good combination, it's really highlighted that importance to me.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually retaken up running as well, and I have to say, just the headspace that you get from doing it, and that again, I think it's that conversion of the potentially negative energy into something a little bit more positive is something I definitely value for sure. So, from a digital science perspective, what kind of things can we maybe share with people, things that have worked for us? Because we're quite lucky that we are very remote, and that in its own way is very accommodating of different needs and different situations. But I think we do have a lot of opportunities to interact with each other. And I do think that as soon as we came out of the very harsh lockdowns, we were able to safely interact again. So we have a few different ways that we do that, don't we? John, I know that you were talking about our retreat, for example. What does our annual retreat look like, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so the Digital Science Annual Retreat is where a large proportion of the company all gets together, in one place. I remember years ago, well before the pandemic, we all got together in Boston and we were on a boat together. And I seem to remember thinking, is this a great idea that everyone in the company is on the same boat in case it sinks? But those kind of concerns aside, it's a really good opportunity just for people to meet that don't normally interact. And I think this is one of the things that, especially as a company gets bigger, you have lots of interactions with the people that you work directly with, but fewer interactions with people outside of that, in adjacent teams or who work on maybe similar things, but just not who you don't have to work with directly. And I think the retreat is a great opportunity just for people to meet up and have those conversations, because a lot of the people that work at digital science came from a research background or came from academia, and so there's a lot of shared interests. And some of that is shared on Slack, with people with pets, or with there's, people share interesting things they're doing, but it's nice to have that chance to meet in person. And then I think as a company, it also helps, it's a chance to set out the vision, set out the plans for the year, and it's a chance to sort of in person see the reaction to that and get kind of very direct feedback on it and sort of help shape that going forward as well.
It's also an immense amount of fun. And I think we're sometimes afraid of saying that, because for some reason it may make us look less professional. But I think it's a real benefit that we have that opportunity to meet people we haven't yet met, and to find people we have commonality with that we didn't know about, but really just have fun. It's like recharging our batteries often as well. I think that's really lovely. Danielle, given that you've been working with digital science, we're quite an open-minded, forward-thinking company. What would you love to see from other spaces within research and tech around good health and well-being, and particularly mental health?
I think what you both just mentioned was this community, as you said, in the retreat, we feel that, and we have different things on Slack and different activities. And also Wellbeing has become a room where community meets, because this is again people from all different branches of digital science who would never meet otherwise, have come together in such a lovely supporting community. And it is this togetherness, I think, that is, as you said, that brings flow, that brings the creativity. And as you said, we can have fun and it is good. We should have positive emotions. Positive emotions broaden, positive emotions build us up. If we don't have positive emotions, we cannot be creative or productive. So it's not about the having fun. It's about creating that positive community, really. And that, I think, would work with every organization.
Absolutely. We are really lucky to have that. We'd love to hear about some of the other things that are going on within our research community. If you would like a bit more support, there are some amazing resources out there. There's an amazing book by Dr. Zoe Ayres, which is all about managing your mental health during your PhD. And Dr. Petra Boynton has also written a book called Being Well in Academia. So those are a couple of places that you can find out a little bit more. By all means, get in touch with us and tell us what you have been up to manage your mental health and to maintain good health and well-being in your communities. But for now, we hope you have a great World Mental Health Day. Address it, acknowledge it, raise awareness, and just celebrate all the good things that you're doing for yourselves and for others.